Good afternoon and many thanks for making it to KTN Newsdesk. You're right in the middle of July. My name is Boni Tunya.
And my name is Edith Kimani. This afternoon we have news from the courts. Kathy Kilonzo now suing the IEBC and Nat are back in court as well.
Also, we have a prison break in Shimola Tewa. Stay tuned. Welcome to the program. Kathy Kilonzo's High Court case against the IEBC will be heard for only about 3 hours tomorrow, with the ruling expected to be made 24 hours later on Wednesday.
This is according to directions issued by the 3 High Court judges. And this morning, Sophia Wanuna was following that particular story at the Milimani Coast. She'll be joining us later with the very latest from there.
Right, from there we go to Shimola Tewa. Prison officers at Coast Region have mounted a massive manhunt for the 2 inmates who escaped from Shimola Tewa prison last night.
According to Coast Region Prisoners Commander James Kodieni, the inmates managed to escape from the prison, braving gunshots from the officers in the watchtower.
KTN's Zipporah Karani now reports.
At 7 p.m. last night, this is the ladder they constructed on their own that the 2 inmates used to manage to make a prison break from Shimola Tewa prison in Mombasa.
They escaped at one moment. They went out together and they constructed a ladder which they used in scaling the walls. Then they landed on the ground.
The inmates were serving a 13-year sentence at the coast, having been found guilty of robbery with violence. The search operation, mounted by the prison warders, began in the night but did not yield any fruit. This is the second incident of prisoners escaping from Shimola Tewa facility in a period of 4 weeks.
It's not a small incident for us. We don't take it for granted, and we are out there to ensure that at least they are apprehended.
Even as prison officers set up at the watchtower shot at them severally, they managed to escape from the prison. The inmates were not living in the same cell. The Coast Prison Commander James Kodieni says they are carrying out investigations, and any officer found guilty of aiding the inmates' escape will be dismissed and will face the full wrath of the law.
The officers we feel culpable would be interdicted right now.
According to prison officers, the 2 escapees were friends who always teamed together while outside their cells. Zipporah Karani, KTN Newsdesk.
And so we revisit the developing story where Kathy Kilonzo's High Court case against the IEBC will be heard for only about 3 hours tomorrow, with the ruling expected to be made 24 hours later on Wednesday. This is according to directions issued by the 3 High Court judges this morning. For more details, we are now joined live by Sophia Wanuna from the Milimani Court in Nairobi. Sophia, what's the latest from this Kathy Kilonzo IEBC dispute?
Good afternoon, Bonnie. It is 10 days until the people of Makueni County go to the polls to vote in their new senator, of course, after the unfortunate demise of the late Mutula Kilonzo. And today, the 3-judge bench constituted by Dr. Willie Mutunga, the Chief Justice, sat here at the Milimani Law Courts this morning and, of course, ironed out a few issues which I'll just take you through very quickly. The hearing will begin tomorrow, and that is the suit where Kathy Kilonzo is suing the IEBC. The 2 petitioners are Kathy Kilonzo and the Wiper Party, and the 3 respondents, the 3 people that are party in this suit is the IEBC, the tribunal, which was the dispute resolution tribunal that indeed decided that Kathy Kilonzo is not suitable to vie because she is not a registered voter, and the 3rd respondent is the Makueni County returning officers. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. the hearing begins, and as we have have heard and we saw in the session earlier on in the morning, one Mr. Isaac Oluchier had sought to be admitted as a friend of the court. But when the court adjourned and the judges returned, they ruled on that matter and found that Mr. Oluchier will not, in essence, add any value to this particular case. And also because of the constraints of time, his request, his application was disallowed. So the case begins tomorrow. The hearing will commence tomorrow, and it's basically the bulk of it will be written submissions. All the parties are required to make written submissions so that when it comes for their time to make presentations before the court, they will be brief. They'll basically be making highlights of their written submissions. The petitioners, the two, Kathy's lawyers and IEBC's lawyers and Wiper's lawyers will have 20 minutes to make their submissions, and then the respondents, that is IEBC, the tribunal, and the returning officers' lawyers will make their responses. After that, the hearing is set to conclude tomorrow as well. Remember the constraints of time. IEBC needs to complete its preparations for this by-election, which is just 10 days away. So the conclusion of this hearing is expected to be tomorrow as well, by about 1 p.m. the judges estimate. And by Wednesday, Kenyans should expect to get a ruling on whether or not Kathy Kilonzo will be appearing on that ballot paper, whether she will contest the Makueni senatorial seat. One other important issue, of course, right now is what issues will the judges be determining tomorrow. And they said before the hearing begins, at the very beginning, each of the parties have been told to submit what issues they think should be determined, and the judges, before the hearing fully commences, they will say these are the various issues. They will have a comprehensive lookout of that. So we will continue to follow this story. It's a big story. Everybody's watching. We're keenly following it for you. So tomorrow for the hearings, we will be back here at the Milimani Law Courts to bring you the proceedings. And of course, Wednesday, that all-important verdict, Bonnie, expected. For now, it's back to you.
Right, many thanks, Sophia. We'll keeping tabs with that, and of course we'll bring the latest in regard to that particular dispute. Edith?
Away from the course, let's jump into a bit of politics now. And the Coalition for Reform and Democracy, also known as CORD, is threatening to boycott all elections unless a total overhaul of the poll body IEBC is conducted. The coalition leader, Raila Odinga, claims IEBC, together with the ruling coalition, Jubilee, are working in cahoots to frustrate the opposition in Kenya. Now, Raila says Jubilee is hitting back at Kathy Kilonzo after she turned down their request to vie for the Makueni seat on a Jubilee ticket. Aaron Ochieng reports.
The country could be headed to an unprecedented political situation should Coalition for Reforms and Democracy CORD make good their threat to boycott all IEBC conducted elections. The coalition leader Raila Odinga on Sunday claimed that IEBC is a compromised body out to frustrate his team, as evidenced in the cancellation of Kathy Kilonzo's candidature for Makueni by-election and the manner in which it conducted the last general election.
It should be left in the hands of the people of Makueni. We can see the hands of our opponents in trying to bar the CORD coalition from fielding a strong candidate in Makueni.
Speaking at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport after he arrived from a week-long trip in Australia, Raila described the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission as the most corrupt and inefficient institution in the history of Kenya.
Now, this kind of commission cannot issue a certificate of registration for somebody to contest an election and then go and then set up another tribunal to review that same certificate. On one hand, the returning officer looked at the documents and satisfied himself and gave a certificate. Then the very same commission, having been prompted by one of our opponents, then went ahead to go and set up another tribunal.
He also accused IEBC of colluding with CORD's opponents to scuttle his coalition chances of winning any election. The former Prime Minister said he is still active in politics and dismissed those suggesting that he calls it quits.
We will not participate in any election in the future presided over by this inefficient, corrupt electoral commission.
Aaron Ocheng, KTN.
A section of Somali leaders have declared their support for the continued presence of the Kenya Defence Forces in Somalia. Despite criticism by some inside Somalia government on the KDF operations in Kismayo, this comes as a UN monitoring report claimed that KDF personnel in Kismayo could be involved in facilitating illegal exports of charcoal stocks. Now, these were confiscated from fleeing Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia. Leaders say that those pushing for the removal of the Kenya forces do not know how tricky the security situation is in Somalia.
We also sent our troops into Somalia, not to annex any territory, but to help them and to help Kenyans so that we secure our security and their security.
But again, we will not stop. The government, I'm part of the government of Kenya, as a Somali, as a Kenyan Somali, we will stood by that until, inshallah, a government will be got in Somalia. We'll stand by that and continue supporting it. But we also calling that please, I mean, we cannot continue this forever.
We want to assure Kenya and Ethiopia, our neighbors, that we wouldn't have been able to bring about peace to Somalia were it not for your support.
Attorney General Githu Muigai wants the teachers who are on strike to be penalized for contempt of court, and NAT Chairman Wilson Sosion and Secretary General Mudzo Nzili to be committed to civil jail. The AG also wants the teachers union NAT to be fined 20 million shillings for contempt. He has also asked the court this morning to slap every single teacher who is still on strike and has failed to return to work with a fine of 10,000 shillings. Not through their lawyer, Chacha Odera has objected, saying that the government is the one that has breached the court orders. They say their June salaries have been held, forcing them to go back to work on empty stomachs. Earlier on, Deputy Solicitor General Muthoni Kimani presented a report on teachers compiled by Labour Cabinet Secretary Kazungu Kambi to the court. The case is currently ongoing at the Industrial Court, and we will bring you more details in our subsequent bulletins. To Murang'a now, where there's a very interesting initiative that has been put up in that county, and is to help rehabilitate alcoholics and keep them away from drinking. Dozens of previous alcohol addicts now say that they have actually been able to stay away for months and are feeling the difference in their lives. Here are the details.
Home after home, wives and their children breathe in relief. The husbands, and to the children their fathers, are finally the men they have long desired to have. For the men, it's a life they have come to adore, an alcohol-free life. A vigorous anti-alcohol campaign in Murang'a County is in the process of rehabilitating hundreds of young men from alcoholism. Majority now freely talking of the addiction that for some has cost them their jobs and many their families.
Mimi sikuwa nalala kitanda moja na bibi yangu. Bibi yangu alikuwa akona kitanda yake, lakini tuko kwa room moja, lakini kitanda yake ni kando, yangu ni kando.
I felt so excited drinking in the city center, and it was so pleasurable. The place was full of, I felt excited. So the following day when we went back to class, I was longing for the practicals at Chiromo. So I would go sneak from the labs and go to the city center. Then it became kind of a habit.
A non-governmental organization, Gam Africa Foundation, launched the campaign in the county with the name of helping the community to get rid of the vice that has for long been associated with the county and in most times the entire central region.
The age that is supposed to be working and giving the maximum output in our socio-economic expectation. Unfortunately, this is the group of age group that is seriously indulged and addicted in alcoholism and substance abuse.
Through the campaign, several former alcohol addicts have turned their back on drinking and now are in the front line preaching the message to many others. Angel Katusia, KTN, live at 1.
Right, from Murang'a, our next stop is Taita Taveta County, where residents have decided to take matters into their own hands and forcibly occupy over 3,000 acres of land they say should have been reverted back to the public after their lease expired. Residents say the land was supposed to have been returned to the government so that the residents of the area could be allocated some plots after the expiration of the lease. After getting word of the allocations of the plots, residents invaded the land, destroying crops that were planted by the previous squatters, who were also forced out of the land. A court order was put out to stop all activities on the land until the Lands Commission and county government was in control of the situation.
Juzi maskari wakaja wakaanza kufurusha watu hapa. Ni kwa Bazili. Ninaingia ninatoka. Watu wanakamatwa na mapanga wanakimbia. Ukipelekwa pale polisi ni mapanga unakamatwa nayo. Unaambiwa umeharibu mali za watu huku. Na hamna mali iliyoharibiwa bali unakamatwa na nini? Na panga. Kidhibiti cha kuharibu mali hakuna. Basi tunapigwa faini pale 30,000 ndio upate bondi. Hata hivi sasa kuna wananchi wengine wanaendelea na kesi zao.
Very bitter there. But who else is bitter than Asafa Paul and Tyson Gay?
I don't think there could be anyone actually, and those are the two people who've been added to the growing list of people who failed drug tests. We have that story coming up in the sports, as well as our rugby 15-a-side team who came back today from Madagascar.
Lots of positive stuff, eh?
Lots of positive stuff.
Stay tuned. Evaluation. In studio is Deborah Ndungu from the Makini Consulting and Training to help me understand why exactly you're trying to evaluate SMEs. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Why evaluate SMEs and what are the parameters you're using?
Okay, we are trying to get youth entrepreneurs who have been making great strides in business to be awarded, rewarded, celebrated. Reason being that that's the only way we are going to be able to create the jobs that we've been talking about. So we want to recognize youth entrepreneurs, people who are aged between the ages of 18 to 35 years old. And we want to be able to train them, expand the capacity of their businesses, and first and foremost, of course, reward those who have been making very great strides in business.
Right, you're talking SMEs and youths. What are the criteria you're looking for? Can anyone just come and say, hey, I have a small business, evaluate
Unfortunately, not everybody, because then there would be no criteria. So we're going to be looking at businesses who are at least registered, who have at least one employee, who are making at least 1,000 bob per day.
That's pretty low.
Yes, that's pretty low because that's a reality on the ground. We had set very high standards, only to check with a few stakeholders who told us, come on, guys, lower the standards, because this is the reality on the ground. And we've been talking with the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, the Ministry of Enterprise and Industrialization, and that is a criteria that is actually feasible.
All right, Deborah, we are going, we being the youth are going for the 6 billion the government has set aside. Are you happy with the kind of SME environment in Kenya, and what more can the young people do?
First, we have to change perceptions, because the perception on the ground is that youths always think, when I finish college, when I finish campus or whatever it is, I'll get a job. But that's not the reality on the ground. The reality is that the labor market has much fewer jobs than the number of people who are qualified to be in the labor market. So we need to first change the perception that actually we know that it's not every youth person who can set up a business, but we need to start encouraging the youth to be creators of jobs and not just to be looking at getting a job when they finish their education.
All right. Deborah, our time is up, but what are the dates again?
The dates are, we're launching on 1st of August. And we're going to be having the award dinner in November 15th.
All right. Asante sana, Deborah Mburu from Makini Marketing and Training and Consulting, for just painting a picture on SMEs in the country and what they need to do. Shift gears to sports now.
Thank you, Tunyan. We kick off with good news as a triumphant Rugby 15s team jetted into the country this morning and was hosted by the Rugby Union to a breakfast with all eyes now set for the World Cup. The team clinched the African title and is now 2 matches away from the World Cup, with their South African coach Jerome Pawata insisting that his charges are in the right frame of mind but should be cautious. They beat a hard-fighting Zimbabwe 29-17 in Madagascar on Sunday to reclaim the crown they last held in 2011. The 15th team are now on the top African nation, with the exception of South Africa, who do not take part in the tournament due to their position as a top 3 team in the world in the International Rugby Board rankings.
In Kampala against Uganda, we had a tough time in Kasarani, and the focus was, I don't think the guys even know it, that the focus was that we're going to take them off the pitch and forever keep them outside, and that they know that Kenya is here to mean business. And that's why the score was so big, guys. They couldn't do anything.
We are back to business. And I would like to tell the whole team and my board and the technical bench that the hard work starts now. Gentlemen and ladies, we are only 2 games away from the World Cup. England and Wales 2015. Only 2 games away. It might sound very near, but it's a very, very long distance. We have so much to do, so much work to do.